Today we're looking at tobacco. Tobacco is the leading cause of preventable death in the world and kills over 8 million people each year, according to the World Health Organization. More than 1.2 million of them are non-smokers who were exposed to secondhand smoke. Experts say cancer and heart disease are some health consequences of smoking. WHO data reveals that 1 in 5 adolescents in Africa now uses tobacco. And the use of tobacco products other than cigarettes is also increasing on the continent. For more insight, I spoke with Akinbode Oluwafemi. He is the Executive Director of Corporate Accountability and Public Participation Africa and Board Chair of the Africa Tobacco Control Alliance. Take a look.
So when you have to look at the smoking rate across Africa, we have, you might be saying that smoking rate is low. You have countries with less than 10%. You have those close to, 20%. And so for the tobacco companies, that makes Africa a continent to be harnessed, a continent to grow markets. But the worrying side of that figure is that the Africa now represent the continent where smoking rate is going up.
What can you tell us about the impact of tobacco consumption among the youth? What is the problem, and is it because of the advertisement?
You are correct. Tobacco companies create advertisement, images, programs that are appealing to the youth. They continue to exploit the African music that is gaining a lot of crowds now with indirect advertising. Another platform that is extremely worrisome is also the movies industry on the continent. And if you have to also add the streaming platforms across the world that also stream movies unrestrained on the African continent without the kind of restrictions that you have in India, where smoking is glamorized, then you begin to see that aspirational motive where, African youths are beginning to associate, smoking to, cool life, development, and the rest of them. And so all these factors put together are what we'll see are responsible that we begin to call on governments across our continent to do something to ensure that the glamorization of movies in music and movies, advertisement, sponsorship and promotion, they even do some what they call the corporate social responsibility initiatives that are targeted at the youth in order to subtly market their products to that section of our communities.
What is the strategy for the Alliance to tackle this problem?
The Africa Tobacco Control Alliance is an alliance of society groups across the continent. First, we're pulling ourselves together to exchange our ideas, to build capacity, to be able to work together as a continent to ensure that all governments on our continent put in place laws and that are compliant with the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, as well as effectively implement those laws. We are involved in capacity building. For our fellow NGOs, fellow CSOs, we are also providing technical assistance to government that are working on tobacco laws for their individual countries. And of course, we also link up with our global CSO movements to be able to get the best practices and get involved in all the global arena on tobacco control.
Now, for this year, World Tobacco Day, which was May 31st, you drew attention to the fact that cigarette butts are one of the most prevalent forms of toxic plastic pollution on the planet and harm the marine ecosystems. Tell us more.
Every year, about 4,500 billion cigarette butts are thrown everywhere in the world. And those butts eventually end up either in the marine system or actually as litters on our environment. And of course, in the cigarette butts are microplastics that are not biodegradable. In the production of plastics, you contribute to climate change, even when these are thrown in the atmosphere, again, because they're just there, they end up in our fishes, they end up in our marine system, and ultimately they come back into our body system. And so we think that this is the time that governments around the world should begin to ban filters in cigarette, because it appears now, and there are scientific evidence, that cigarette, right from production at the farming level to smoking of cigarette, even to the butts, they are injurious to health and, of course, the environment. We are specifically now asking government to begin to enforce ban on filters, as well as look at mechanisms to make tobacco companies pay for the damages that they have also caused on the environment, and make them pay for the pollution. And of course, let our world and our climate become cleaner.